Pretty groovy music there. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Self-Publishing Insiders. I'm Jim Azevedo. I lead marketing and corporate communications here at Draft Digital. And today I'm thrilled to welcome our guest, Russell Nohelty, to the show. Hey,
Hi, how
Russell.
are you doing?
I'm great. And how are you?
I'm doing good. We were just talking about. I think we're finally. I think I'm finally mostly recovered from the conference and this whole a month of March.
Yeah, you've been on quite the pace here. You've been running a sprint,
Yeah,
in the midst of a marathon. So I don't
yeah,
know how you do it.
absolutely. So
So let me set the foundation here. I want to read
sure.
your bio because your bio is pretty extensive. You're doing a lot of stuff in addition to you know conferences. So let me read here to kind of set some background for our viewers. So those of you who are not familiar with Russell, he's a USA Today best-selling fantasy and nonfiction author who has written dozens of novels and graphic novels, including the Godverse Chronicles, the Obsidian Spindle Saga, and Ichabod Jones' Monster Hunter. He is the publisher of Wannabe Press, co-host of the Kickstart Your Book Sales and Six-Figure Author Experiment podcasts, and co-founder of the Writer MBA conference and the Future of Publishing Mastermind. He also co-created the author ecosystem archetype. Let me slow down there. He also co-created the author ecosystem archetype system to help authors embrace their natural tendencies to find success. I'm looking forward to talking about that. You can find most of Russell's writing at theauthorstack.com, and I'll put a link there later on. And that's a super helpful resource for authors. Uh,
Well, thank you.
he lives in Los Angeles with his wife and dogs. Russell, thanks for being here, man. I've been looking forward to this for weeks, actually.
Same. I'm so excited we finally get a chance to sit down and talk. It's great.
I know. So Russell and I were talking backstage about how we kind of passed each other at various conferences and have never really had the time just to sit down, even for like a concentrated 5 minutes worth of time, just to talk to one another. And I'm excited to have Russell here because, for our viewers out there who've been with us on a couple episodes or several episodes, you know that from time to time we welcome in author coaches and consultants. But with Russell, it's not like you're just helping authors publish books, because from what I can gather, like your sweet spot is helping authors build sustainable businesses. So you're not about that, one and done aspect. You're like, hey, I want to help you publish a successful book, but I want to help you build a successful career, a successful business. I'm curious, what led you to this path of helping authors build successful businesses?
Everyone builds businesses wrong. And when I started working with publishing, like with Monica specifically,
Mm-hmm.
everyone was so not that retailers aren't great. I love retailers, but like everyone was so retailer focused that they would look at my rank and it'd be like, you're like a 2 million author. Like, why are you like hanging, like, why are you in this conversation? And I'd be like, well, like, I don't know, like I made like $120,000 last year, like just none of them on retailers. Like my retailer sales for like $700 a year would be a good year for me in retailer sales until hopefully this year. I think I've already made more through Draft Digital this year than I have in any other year, which is not a lot of money. Don't get me wrong, but like it is only 3 months also. So
That's so interesting. I mean, I imagine you'd have, even at that point, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but even at that point, I'm like, wait, what? Because it seems like everybody's books.
Like I wrote all these books and no one knows about them because like I do them all direct to my store on Kickstarter through Substack. Like I do a lot of direct sales stuff. And what people would always tell me was, oh, you have to write this kind of book, and like books, readers don't transfer over. And like, if you're not writing in these 3 genres, like it was all of these, like, you can't write this book. And my answer was like, I write books
100%.
about gods in portal fantasy and like about thinly veiled critiques on capitalism. And like, I make not like $1 million, but like $100,000 pretty reliably, $200,000 a year, like making these very weird books and comics and and audio dramas, and just like able to fill my pie, not with necessarily a ton of money, but with the understanding that like my audience will buy the things, like they will support it, and I'm working in service of them. And so I think that writers overall are playing the wrong game, and they don't understand the rules of the game that they should be playing, or that they really are playing. And talking with thousands of them now across the last decade, I'm mostly interested in getting people who are struggling to write weird books so that I can buy them.
Love it. I love it. This is going to be fun. All right, we're just getting started. This brings me back to a memory I had, gosh, probably going back to 2014 or 2015, where I was at a conference and I was on this big panel of traditional publishers and agents and editors. And I think I was the only indie publishing guy on the panel, and the room was packed. And then somebody near the back of the room raised their hand, and they were asking about vampire books and how they love vampire books and they want to write a vampire book. And so one of the trad publishers answered the question. He's like, well, I don't know how to put it to you, but we're not really selling those books anymore. We're not really taking those books on anymore. We think the market's gone. So, and then I remember seeing that author just so deflated in that moment. So I'm like, well, if I can kind of tag on to that. And I said something along the lines of, look, if you're indie publishing, you can write whatever you want. You can write whatever you're passionate about. Chances are there's going to be a market for those readers. There's probably people out there who want to hear your stories, who are just as passionate about that subject, that topic, as you are. And she lit up, and authors around her lit up, because it's the truth. You can write whatever you want. You could find a market out there.
Yeah, I mean, so I'll give you an example from comics. My friend Chris Simon is an editor at a comics company, and she has a great Substack called Editor Girl. And she was talking about romance comics. So romance comics used to be very, very popular around World War II, more popular than superhero comics after the war. And like they hit a zenith where like they were incredibly popular, and they were produced for like in the same vein of like pulp books. But then they kind of fell out of favor with publishers, and people stopped making them largely. Some indie people started making them. But then this little company called Webtoon came along, and they were like, publish whatever you want on our platform, and the best stuff we will fund. And shockingly, all of the stuff that was like making bank, not all of it, but a lot of the stuff that was making bank were romance comics, which we have been told for years are unprofitable and not and there's no market for. But when you just like put it onto a platform, like different things bubble up that people want. And like I still am waiting for the isekai portal fantasy boom to move to move from lit RPG into comics, because to like the rest of the industry, because like I write portal fantasy, and like I do see like all lit RPGs are just like portal fantasy books basically. So like there is that like thing that we were told portal fantasy doesn't sell, and I'm like, there's literally an entire genre that's very, very popular that is just all portal fantasy books. You just are categorizing it as lit RPG, but like they are portal fantasy books.
The readers will decide, and they will vote with their wallets.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, Russell, at what point in an author's career should they start thinking about their business?
I mean, I think that they should so my big thing is triangulating yourself inside capitalism. And so like, I think that you have to triangulate them all the time. Like a submarine doesn't ping the depths one time when they're going around. They ping constantly to make sure there's nothing that they need to worry about around. So I think you should do it once a quarter, every quarter, and say like, there's a parallel. I call it the growth to monetization parallel, and we are always on it. And the question is not like, do I want business? Do I want to be a business, or do I want X, Y, and Z? Because while you may not want to make money, I have never heard somebody say, I don't want to be read more broadly. I don't want to make a bigger impact. And in capitalism, impact and money and energy relates to money. Like if you have more impact, you make more money. And so, but you are always on this parallel. And on one end of this parallel is growth. And growth is all about reducing friction, which usually means not monetizing, because like the biggest friction point is money. On this side, there's monetization. And the biggest way to kill growth is to ask people to buy a thing. But it is also the only way to make money. Like, this is the number one thing that I tell authors is like, when is the last time you asked someone to buy your book or buy your thing or subscribe to your thing? And they're like, I don't know, I don't do that. And you're like, I guess the last time I launched, I'm like, well, if you don't tell someone to do a thing, they won't do it. But like, it's better to think about. There's an article on my Substack called the Author Stack Framework, which is 11 steps to like kind of thinking through this. And I think people should do it every quarter, but at least once a year. And the first thing or the second thing is, where are you on this spectrum at any one time? Like, and most people are trying to do both. And here's the thing: I'm very smart.
Both what? Just to be super clear.
Both growth and monetization at the same time, and they're wondering why they're cannibalizing each other and they can't get any traction. And I'm very smart. I've been very successful. I've never figured out how to make these two things work together. The only way that I've ever been able to make them work is when I think of them and say, I am in a season of growth. I am going to spend money to grow. I'm going to give as much as I can for free. I'm going to be in free promos. I'm going to try and get as many free book things. I'm going to be at as many promotions as possible. And then I say, for these 2 weeks, for this month, I'm going to have a Kickstarter, or I'm going to have a monetization event. And I'm going to push really hard for money. And by breaking those up, suddenly you like have this way to swing one side and get like 5,000, 10,000 new subscribers. Then you swing to the other side and you like, I call it flushing them out, where you like flush out those subscribers, and a lot of people unsubscribe, but it's okay because you know you're going to swing back the other way and pick up new subscribers, and the people who really care are going to move through. So I think you should do this always, but at least that exercise of, am I in a growth event phase or a monetization phase, as often as you possibly can.
Is it difficult for you to counsel creatives on how to make money because they're so focused on the art rather than the financial success?
Oh, it's impossible. Like, I can't even say the word money. For years, I had to say money is the afterburn of running a good business. And I still believe that, because the thing is that most authors think, so there's two ways. The way that most successful people talk about business is using money as ends. And money as ends, when you do that, it's the means don't matter. It's like, if your goal is money, I don't know, make like a book about 401ks, go sell soap, go swindle some old ladies out of money. Like, the money is the end goal. The process is not. And a lot of people, almost all authors, are grossed out by that, because they don't, to them, money is the money is the means, the product is the end. So like, I want to make money to fund the growth of this thing that I'm doing. And because so much of growth strategy, it assumes that money is the end goal of all of these things, it ends up turning people off. But if we can say money is the means by which you're able to create the thing that you want, the more money and energy is exchanged, the more product you're able to make, the more things you're able to do. So this is something that is in that framework as well, but it has changed the way that I can talk to authors now since I kind of had that realization.
Russell and Melissa, thanks for putting up the 11 stack author stack framework link there. I appreciate that. Russell, for newer authors, an author who maybe is aspiring, who hasn't released their debut novel yet, for example, should they be thinking businessy right now, or should I wait, for a couple of books? When does that?
Yeah. So most people, so I have a book called How to Build Your Creative Career. And that is broken up into 5 sections. The first of which is how to make something great. And in general, look, you're a long way from being great when you haven't written one book yet. And I think people don't spend enough time in that learning to make something great aspect. That said, you can do that strategically. For instance, like, you should be consistently making different things than you normally make. Like, if you really want to make romance books, you should not write a romance book first, probably, because you will be too precious with it. Like, you will be like, oh, it's not exactly like the Nora Roberts book. It's not exactly like this thing. And you probably do not have the skill to make a book that is the exact book that you want. But if you made a mystery book, which is equally structured, maybe you like Monk. Oh God, that's not like The Residence or Only Murders in the Building, but you don't love it, but you know how to make a good mystery and you're not as precious about it. So you can make those books much quicker. So make that book, make the thriller book, do the things that you think you don't like. I didn't know that I would enjoy negotiating contracts. It seems like a weird thing to like, but I legitimately enjoy that process of going through and making deal terms and trying to explore what the thing is, and then handing it to my lawyer to do stuff with it. And if you're not doing all of those things and using that time to explore all the areas of publishing, not just that little thing, then you're going to be so myopic when you come out that you're like, okay, I write I write this kind of sweet romance with these 4 tropes. I go to this event. I go to these reader events. These are my audiences. And then you're 2 years down the line being like, wow, that's all I do. Am I nothing else besides this one thing? But if you, and your books can't, the more different kinds of paths that you leave yourself open to, the richer your books can get, the more things you can pull from, the more experiences. So do I think that you should think about the business first? No, I don't think that. I think that most people think about the business too quickly, but I do think you should strategically, during that time of learning, really focus on learning a lot of stuff, even if you want to write romance, because you will write a better romance if you learn all of these other tricks, because there are tricks that mystery writers and comic writers and podcasters and all of these people use. They use them they use them as if it's like breathing. And romance readers and romance people have never even thought of using these things, because they don't explore these other areas. And that's how I think you should really think about the early part of your career, which is strategically setting yourself up for success, not necessarily worried about how to make your first book successful, because frankly, you should just try and give away 1 million copies of your first book. If you want the big secret, give away 1 million copies of your book and you'll have a career.
Yeah. So what I gather from that is you gotta learn the business as a whole, the industry as a whole, instead of just laser focusing on just the craft, learn aspects of the business as well. I'm going to bring up a couple of comments here from our viewers. The first one here from Beth. Hey, Beth. Beth says, "Oh, growth phase and a monetization phase, something for me to really consider." I could not agree more. And then this next one from our own Lexi Green, who says, "I like the idea that money is the byproduct of attention and readership."
Yeah, I mean, it's such a nice, you need the money, because if for no other reason, you have to pay other people to do the work, to make the book. And eventually you're going to not be able to keep writing the books in the way or the style or the speed that you want to, if you have to keep self-funding it. So there has to be a mechanism, at least, where you can break even on the books eventually, which means you must at some point make money. And people always, because I have a book coming out called How to Thrive as a Writer in a Capitalist Dystopia. And the thing is you might think that like it will all be better if we move to a different different kind of monetization form, but there will always be commerce. Even if it's bartering, you will have to say, I have one elk skin. Will you give me four? Will you give me 4 pounds of berries for it? And like, even if you just do that, like that is still putting yourself out there to.
Oh, totally.
Like, yeah.
I mean, we had authors in the early days of Smashwords. Like, you know, I started my career at Smashwords, and there were authors who were bartering for like professional editing services by, you know, professional landscaping, you know, bartering
Right.
that service or something like that. So there are other ways to do it.
Right.
Alyssa says, yeah, but it feels scummy to have money as the end goal, even though we all need that to live. It can.
Yeah, I agree. And it's this thing because, like, look, if you want to make money as your end goal, do not go into publishing, because like, even if you're a 7-figure author, using those same strategies, you could probably be a 9-figure hedge fund manager. But like, so like people like, just the reason I like publishing is because people are self-selecting to like put something above the full monetary potential of what they can make if they were in entrepreneurship. And like, that means like, for almost everybody, there are some people who like write nonfiction books and write certain books where like money is the end goal. But like, if money is an essential component of making the engine work, it is how you do ads. It's how you make books. It's how you get better covers. It's how you pay people better. It's how you like have assistants. It's how you get like people to like leverage your time. It's how you get into box, all of those things. And so like, it is necessary, but if you start thinking about it as like, money is the engine by which I am able to make the books that I love, as opposed to the books that I love give me money, it does, in my experience, it changes things for a lot of people.
Yeah. I remember, you know, back in my indie rock band days, having the same feeling. Like, I don't want to ask people to buy our CDs. Like, they don't know who we are, or to, you know, to download our music. But then someone buys it, or they come to a show, they pay to see you, and then it feels really good when someone pays you for a piece of your art. And then it's like, it just lights a fuse. Then you try to figure out other ways to make money right away so that you can keep the thing that you love so much on this trajectory of growth, so that you can keep doing the thing year after year. One quick question, it's kind of in the same realm here, but in your opinion, Russell, like, what separates the authors who build sustainable careers from the authors who maybe just have one successful book in them and they're out?
Well, I would ask, like, what does sustainability mean to you? Because it can mean a lot to a lot of different people. For me, it means I can make enough money to support the weird things that I have to do, and equally contribute to our household, our household growth and our household finances without being a burden on my wife. So it means I can make a tarot deck if I want. I can make I can go write a brand new weird series. Like, my wife doesn't have to worry that it's going to be financial burdensome to her. I can make a conference, like whatever those things are. Like, I will not be a money burden. But like, I don't want to write the next 7-figure romance series, and I'm not picking on romance. Like, I love romance series. I make comics with romance authors. Like, I've written romance before, but like, my interest is in weird portal fantasy books with mythology that are thinly veiled critiques of capitalism. Like, that's just like the thing that I write that like I like the most, and I will write like a 20-book series in one of those. So there are other people that just say, I don't care what I write. I just want it to be to make a lot of money each time and be able to fund my expansion into translations and audiobooks and all these different formats. It's that Vanessa Vale box method. I just want to be in as many things as possible, have it be this engine, and like have fun readers. And like, I want to be, I'm willing to change genres or as the mood changes. There are people that just like Monica, who's just like really into like talking about one topic in like so much depth that it's like no one else can like touch how much depth she goes into topics, because like she will write 300 posts before you've written one. And
so clear.
Like,
she's just,
absolutely.
Fun.
So
we're talking about Monica Leonel, Russell's partner, business partner.
Yes, absolutely. Anyway, so like it really starts by saying like, what does sustainability mean to you? And how can we create the conditions for that sustainability? Which is why, and it's important that when I said that triangulation piece, because that changes over time.
Okay.
So, but I do think that you need a monetization engine and a discoverability engine. Whatever that is, you need both of them. And we're moving into a world where there's really like 6 parts that an author needs to think about. They need to think about retailers, but really like retailers, not even necessarily as the end goal, but as the functional discoverability of like all of the rest of the things. So retailers are very good at getting your books into casual readers' hands who like that thing. And then hopefully those funnel into where your hardcore readers can follow you either through a subscription, through direct sales pages, through crowdfunding, through your web store, through conventions, however else you want to monetize. And those all have their own discoverability and monetization engines. So the question is like, where are you on that spectrum of growth to monetization at any one time? What is your discoverability engine? What is your monetization engine? And like, how can you use that to be sustainable? Unfortunately, a lot of that comes down to at the beginning of your career, you've got to write a lot of books. Just like,
absolutely.
Monica calls this the novelist dilemma, where like books aren't very expensive, so you need a lot of them to make an impact. So like the next thing I would say is you need a signature series. Every creator, almost every creator who's ever written for any length of time has a signature series, which is a 7 to 10 book series that like people can keep coming back to and running through all the time. Like whether that's
the cornerstone of your castle.
Right, exactly. And most people, like I think about Suzanne Collins. Suzanne Collins, like great writer, had a decent career, but like she didn't have like that sustainability. She didn't have that like predictability of income until she got the Hunger Games working. George R. Martin, similarly with Game of Thrones, like he was a writer who did a bunch of other stuff, had a middling success, and had like this big, huge success with Game of Thrones. So usually you need to have those 2 elements wherever you are in the growth trajectory, and then a signature series. If I had to bring it down to like 3 things that you should work on now.
No, that's really good. I appreciate that. It's great advice. Let me bring up a quick question and comment from Ethan Verse. Ethan Verse says, "Hey, Russell, I'm a huge fan of the Obsidian Spindle Saga, but how do you manage to find time for marketing your books while also writing such incredible stories?"
Oh, well, thank you so much, Ethan. I will say that I think of things in 2 phases a day, or 3 phases, I guess. But like one is my green time. This is time that I'm going to be doing stuff like my most important task of the day, which is usually writing or editing or marketing, I guess, or like do formatting, whatever that thing is. It's like the activity that like I need to get done. I will say that I have no children. I do this full time. So like I can block out times for me to do that. But when I was working, I would, on the drive to work, I would think about the chapter I was going to write. At lunch, I would plan that chapter. And on the drive home, I would I would like develop how I'm going to write that chapter. And then I had 1 hour between the time that I got home and my wife got home. And that was my writing time for the day. And that's how I utilized it when I had less time. I also think that most people use marketing as a pump. What I mean by that is they say, I'm going to put money in, and every time I do this little action, like a new subscriber comes out or a new dollar comes out. And so it's like you can never turn away from this pump. Meanwhile, like I've created a flywheel, hopefully, for my business that keeps that. And the difference in a flywheel is it's almost impossible to get turning at the beginning, but then it gets easier and easier and easier and easier and easier every single time.
It's like self-reinforcing.
Right. So the people say, like, how can you keep going? And I say, how can I not? It's like so easy to slip through. Like I get emails from you or other people to be on shows. I get people asking for like consult, like people just like come out and ask me for things in a way now that, so it gets easier over time. I do think that I take that green time action, and then I also have yellow time, which is when I do my admin tasks and marketing. So it's like an hour or two. But I would be lying if I said I've been doing full time for 10 years. And that's a huge part of how I can do both of these things. And if you can't do both of those things, that's not a condemnation of you. It's just that, like, I happen to have been able to create a full-time living doing this. But those first 3 years of me doing it were brutal. I wrote one book, I think, in 2015, one book in 2016, 2 books in 2017, like 2 books in 20. And then in 2018, finally, I started writing like 5 to 10 books a year. But it took me all of that time to get up to that point. And there's no shame in it taking a long time to get up to that point. It's just I always had this end goal in mind of like, and I think even if it's 3 to 5 years away, having that end goal in mind is really important.
Absolutely. And it sounds like, you've created some parameters for yourself. You've got the green time, you've got the yellow time. I assume that the red time is that time you're just like, nope, I'm taking some time for myself. I need to rest or, do something outside of the business.
Or if you're in like, if you're like, to pick your kids up from work, if you want to like go out to lunch with your friends, like all of that is red time.
Yeah. But you've also given yourself permission to have the time to create some inertia, which is based on your experience in the books that you've cranked out. Russell, can we shift gears now? I want to talk about the author archetypes, and specifically your author ecosystems framework. And what I like about this is because, from my understanding, the framework can help with both craft and mindset, but you've kind of got it set up to help authors focus on sales and marketing. Is that correct?
Absolutely. So what we found is what happened to us in 2023 is we started seeing specific people in different of our programs started to have success. And it seemed to not be correlated with how successful they were on retailers. So like someone could make $1 million on retailers and make $1,000 on Kickstarter. We were like, that doesn't seem possible. Like just by like sneezing, they'd make $1,000. Like, so like, how is that? And we started seeing like people that made no money making $20,000 on Kickstarter. And we started saying like, what, or like indirect sale. And we were like, how can this be happening? And what we ended up finding was, one, like different platforms reward different styles of success. And then 2, people had different levels of success, had different things that drove their success. And we broke these down to 5, although Monica thinks there's 6. We have arguments about this like all the time. But 5 for sure. 5 are in the book now. So there's the deserts, who focus on optimization and writing to market, and like making their gift is the perfect book. So like when you think about like, if your thing is, I want to make the perfect romantic comedy, like that is what they are really good at. They're like, if these are the 5 things that romantic comedies have, I'm going to hit those at the exact page count. They're very good. And the thing so the industry has been set up around these people we call deserts for a long time.
I'll pop up the link so people can check it out too.
Cool. Yeah. So the industry is built around these people deserts for so long, because this is what algorithms feed. This is what bookstores feed. Like bookstores end up buying the books that are successful that people ask about. And so like it sort of feeds itself. So about like 40% of people are probably deserts. We call them, which like they care. But like the thing is, all of these other people, that's 60% of the industry or more, they don't care about, that's not their success metric. Like they don't care about giving this present that's perfect to people and hitting all the tropes. So when they try to do that, like it comes across like they don't like the books that they're writing, because they don't like the books that they're writing.
Does it feel inauthentic to them?
Right. Yes. And the readers know that it's inauthentic, so they don't like
to smell it a mile away.
Exactly. So, and then there's people we call grasslands, and their thing is depth. Like they want to write 50 books in the same genre. They want to have a world of book. They want to have like art of book. They want to be George R. R. Martin or Elena Johnson, or like someone who just like they're like cowboy romance and Elena Johnson just go together. Like that's like, and because she has so many books, so they own the topic. They write so many books in a genre that like they end up defining the genre. And they're very good at looking at the data and seeing what's coming up in the next 2 years. And if you ever wanted to do to become more like that, the easiest way is to look at what Publishers Weekly or Publishers Marketplace is buying today, because that is what the industry will be pushing in 2 years. So if you want to just like become a grassland like overnight, like that is like pick something that like got a big 7-figure deal. And that is probably a good bet that other people are going to be buying stuff like that. And like, that's where the trend is coming. But like they get in early to the trend so they can help move it along. And then there's tundras, and Kickstarters are really great for tundras because it's all about launches. They're all about excitement. They're all about like the launch cycle. They understand how to build up hype and then like, and monetize it. Then there are forests. Forests are great at shared language and creating the language. So they do something called ambassador marketing, where they have so many people that love their work that feel like that it's a part of them, that when they are like, hi, I have a new book, this cascades out. And like those people feel emboldened to like tell everyone about it. And then there are aquatics who are really about making a universe and like delighting their fans with different formats and different things. Like they are like the George Lucases of the world, the Star Wars, where like for years there was 3 Star Wars movies, but there was like 900 other ways to engage on Star Wars across all of these different mediums. And the goal of the author ecosystem is that you find one path to success and then you expand out, instead of using all of these things to weigh you down. Because what tends to happen with authors is they try a bunch of things chaotically. One starts to catch, but then they're trying all this other stuff that like they don't have success with. And then if they just drop all that stuff and did just the success stuff, they will be able to pop through, have the success they want, and then do all of the other things. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's so interesting. And Beth here asked a question. I was going to ask a similar version of this question, but I'll let Beth ask it. She says, Russell, do you know if your ecosystem categories line up with Clifton strengths or Enneagram types, like a personality type of test that some of us may be familiar with?
Yeah, we have not found that it does. In fact, the problem a lot of people have with conceptualizing author ecosystems is they think it's a personality test, but it's really a success test. The one that we can most map it to is DISC. If you guys know DISC, it's like red, surrounded by idiots is like talks about DISC, but like it's not. We have not found a way to. We talk about Clifton strengths, Enneagrams, and DISC all the time. We have not found a way to map it onto any of those things.
Okay, that's interesting. let's see. I'm looking at the clock. So I'm going to shift gears once again. Let's talk about Writer MBA, the mastermind
Sure.
conference that you just wrapped up. So you just wrapped up, what was it, a week, 5 days of, it's kind of like it was a dual event, right?
Yeah,
So,
it was 2 days of mastermind, then a vendor day where Sarah Cannon and Future Fiction Academy both had pop-up events. And then we had a 3-day conference. So it was basically like a whole week, which is set six. Yeah. Cause like we then had, we had an opening reception on Sunday. And then we had our closing on Saturday night. So it was basically a full week. It was exhausting.
oh, I can only imagine. So what's Writer MBA all about, and mastermind?
So the conference starts with the idea, and I'm going to make everyone who runs conferences hate me right now, but like the conference system is fundamentally broken. The unit that conference organizers use to say I love you is information. They just keep feeding information over and over and over and over again until people are exhausted. Feel like the last RAM someone said it went from like 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. like with just an hour break for lunch. It is exhausting.
Yeah. A lot of people say they come back from conferences feeling like they were hit with a fire hose of information.
Right.
Yeah.
So we believe the unit of the love language of the attendees is connection. And so the entire conference is based on the idea that what if we just made connection the focal point from the ground up? Everything is based on you connecting based on two things, because everyone comes to an event with two things. Every single person, locks and keys. They have locks of what blocked them. And conferences are very good at figuring out, like, you have this block. So like, just think about this block. But the real thing that you have are keys. These keys will no longer open your current block, but they have opened blocks for you in the past, and you still have them. You don't discard them. They get stronger over time every time you do it. So, the goal of Writer MBA is twofold. In order to have a successful Writer MBA conference, you must open one lock and use one key at minimum. And the goal then becomes, how can we use distributed responsibility where everyone takes responsibility for opening each other's keys from vendors on down? And
all the way down to attendees. So attendees are responsible for sharing their expertise with other attendees.
And listening for other people who may be able to help somebody that they are. And there's no guilt or shame for not knowing the answer, because you probably know who has an answer or can get someone quicker. All we're trying to do is find whoever has a lock, has a key, and open it. And once you open one, it becomes so much easier to open 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, all of them, and so on down the line. And it leads you so that instead of coming back from the conference overwhelmed with, this is all the information I had to sort through to find the key, you leave with, these are the keys that I've opened, and this is the plan to go into the future. Now, I'm not saying people didn't leave exhausted from our conference, but that is the base model that we believe conferences are missing. And we did things like, we had half-hour breaks between events. We gave people green and red wristbands so they could indicate whether they were open to connection or not open to connection. We made quiet rooms where people could recover. We made it, we modeled that it was okay to not go to the talks and to be out having connections. So we did all of these things that we had seen. We brought in, we called them key conversations, where we brought in 5 to 7 experts and we just had people go between them. So it would be like key conversations in audiobooks. we had 5 to 7 audiobook people, and you would walk between them after we would ring the bell, do popcorn, and they would go to the next table, and they would just learn and ask questions and get like a little pitch from all of these people. And mainly the other thing that we did was we didn't treat vendors like the enemy. This is going to probably not connect with anyone except maybe Jim, but like I have been to so many conferences where it is not just like there is an antipathy towards vendors, but there's like an utter disgust. They are like treated worse than attendees. They are like put in corners. They are given like the worst talks in the worst rooms. And we instead chose to vet our vendors very carefully and then make the case that like we have always been helped by vendors. We love our vendors. Like we have never ever had the experience of like what 90% of this industry says, and which allowed people to have meetings with vendors. Vendors were also in the talks and they were in the mastermind places, like learning with the other people. They were listening to problems, and it allowed you to the people to actually get past this you are a vendor to, oh, you actually have, I mean, if the vendor who is there does not have a lock to your key, a key to your lock, then like they probably shouldn't be at the event, because like the vendor's only goal is to say, these are the locks that I can help open, and then hope a ton of people are going to be there. So anyway, like that's a lot. Again, I feel like all I've done is like give like diatribes this time, but like that's the general rule of our conference is connection over information.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's a productive way of thinking about it, especially when it comes to the keys and the locks. Do you think that, and we're running out of time here, I always do this every single week, everybody knows it, but I can't help it. Do you think that connection is still important for the new author, the newbie author, versus information and learning about the business? Because I mean, there have been conferences where when I remember the early days of Smashwords, where I go into a workshop, I'm like, oh my gosh, that was cool. I learned a lot. But then going into the lounge and just sitting down for 5 to 10 minutes with authors who've been doing the thing for, you know, decades in some aspects. And it was like, whoa, that 10 minutes was so valuable to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you have not done this before, you should absolutely value it probably even more than someone who is successful, because you don't even know which panels to go to. So like the goal of connection is like that there's not no panels. We had talks, we had panels, we had key conversations. Is that you could sit down with someone and say, I have actually notes from that talk you didn't go to, or I saw this thing. I think you should go to this. Out of the 5 things that are happening now, you should go to this one, or you should maybe just go back to your room and rest. So like those are, I think that there's more information to learn. But Jim, I have to just ask, I asked this to all of the vendors, like, wouldn't it be better if you could just send people a link to your 101 talks so you could do something more impactful when you're there in the room with them? Like, wouldn't that just make better, like they can find the information on you very easily. Like on all of these topics, there's countless books. So like our goal is to say, you were in New Orleans for 1 week. How can I make this week impactful? And it's not listening to a bunch of 101 talks. It's in like being able to say, oh, I'll bet you didn't know this about Draft to Digital. I'll bet you didn't know this about Smashwords. Here's a tool that I didn't even know that you didn't even know we had. So like those are the things that I think that yes, a newbie author probably needs to attend more talks, but they are also more likely to get overwhelmed and make no progress after the show. And I would rather them leave with like at least a list of vendors who aren't going to scam them out of money and like people who can help them avoid it than just doing your book talk 101.
Yep. Yes, sir. Yeah, we always make time to just walk the rooms, make ourselves really visible and accessible. in the lounges, at the bars, at dinners, whatever it is, that people can just come up and talk to us and ask us all the questions. I want to end this conversation by repeating a quote that I read from you, Russell, which I think is just perfect. Let me read it here for everybody. It says, "I wish for you the audacity of somebody that has never known pain or rejection and the empathy of one who has felt too much." I love that sentiment from you. Can you expand on it and why you feel it's so important for creators to embrace?
Absolutely. So in order to be successful, you really need two things: audacity to just put a thing out there, and empathy to like make it great. Like the empathy with the people who are going to be reading it and listening to it and like interacting with it, to know what they need, whether it's nonfiction, to know like what breakthroughs they need, how they need to pace it, or fiction that you need to know emotionally where these people are to be able to live inside their things. But the problem is, if you are very audacious, this is like someone who has never felt pain and never felt, and like they think, well, I mean, I wouldn't say it on Draft to Digital thing, but like they are people who walk through the world as if they've never felt pain. If you've ever met these people, they are not super empathetic. Like they could be empathetic, but they are often not empathetic. And often it's because they don't even understand what that people aren't having that lived experience. But like, so like they push forward because they don't believe that there are blocks. So they just go through them. Mm-hmm. And like other people are like, how did you just go through that? And what I like, people always ask, how was I right? Like, how did I be? And I was told, no one ever told me not to be. I just thought this is what we did. Like, and like I thought we were going to be creators. Then I went off and did that thing because no one said not to. And now like I am that thing. And most people get blocked at some point and they stop that journey. So like it takes great audacity, but like when you are super audacious, you're usually not super empathetic. And so the books, they're not so great. And you don't connect super great with them. So most writers end up over indexing for the empathy, which means their books are very good, but like they have no confidence to put it out into the world. And when they do, they're just this raw nerve that is like constantly like, so these two things live on opposite ends of like a spectrum. On one side, you must have audacity, because otherwise, why is your name on the book?
Yeah.
Like, why is the book out there? Like, you could have just kept it in a thing. You didn't have to write it down. There's some level of audacity just to like get a book out there, and then to say, I deserve to have a career. I deserve for you to read my book. And then, but like, you also have to have great empathy to make the work great, and probably even to write it in the first place. Just to have the desire to write it comes from a place of like empathy, so other people can like learn from your experience or like have a cathartic moment. Yeah. And most of what I find in authorship are writers who are incredibly empathetic, but not very audacious, or people are super audacious and they lack any empathy. And the real world that we live in is, how do you mold these two opposite ends? This is why great artists are so hard to find, is because you have to somehow live in this world where you're like, instead of living it on a line, you're like living it in a circle and having those things touch. Yeah. And it is very, very hard. And I want people to know that it is very, very hard, and that you probably are over indexing on empathy. Probably if you're like, there's plenty of things, a stand-up comedian or like other like a actor, where you might, where they might generally over index on audacity over empathy. But for writers, they tend to over index on empathy, which is why they're always up in their head about how to like, to even making any money. Like, we're not even talking about the thing of like, they don't even think they deserve the money.
Authors
Like
up in
they
their head? What? That never happens.
Yeah. Well, they actively push money away. They think like, I don't deserve to have my book read. But at the same time, their name is on the cover of the book. Their pictures on the back of the. So I'm like, well, you have to believe that like someone this is worth something because like your name is on it. And that just kind of like breaks their brain because like that is an audacity that they did not know they were capable of.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like that Venn diagram. You've got audacity here, you've got empathy here, then right in the middle there is that sweet spot.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, I took you over time. I didn't mean to do that. Sorry about that. But hey, I love this conversation and I loved ending on that point. Going to go through some of the wrap-up comments here. Just for our viewers out there, you guys, thanks for joining us week in and week out. And again, welcome to the new viewers out there. If you like this episode, if you could do us a favor and subscribe to our channel and share this episode, we really appreciate it because it helps us increase our visibility and it helps us get fantastic guests for you here, like Russell. We encourage you to bookmark d2dlive.com. And if you do so, you can see what our next topic and who our next guest is going to be at d2dlive.com. And finally, if you're brand new to the show, if you're brand new to the publishing industry and you're considering self-publishing a book, you can sign up for a free Draft a Digital account simply by going to draft2digital.com. We're wrapping up here. Russell, are you able to hang out for another minute out in the green room? All right, let's do that. For the rest of you, we'll see you next week. We're going to end with a quick commercial here. Oh, I almost forgot. Bad Jim, bad Jim. I want to remind everybody that in just over a week, we're having a full day of virtual webinar, virtual presentations on print on demand, on creating print books. This is going to be on April 19th. If you click on that link, you can see a full schedule of events as well as session topics and speakers for that day. So that's April 19th. And just to drive the point home, I'm going to end the stream with a short little commercial to tell you all more. We'll see you all next week. Thanks for joining.
There's nothing quite like the feeling of holding your own book in your hands. Draft Digital has always been about creating free tools to help remove the barriers between your writing dreams and having a book published. That's why we're thrilled to offer an entire day of free online webinars to help you understand everything you need to know about getting your book into print. Whether you're just starting or you've been around the block a few times, our Print Books for Indie Authors Day likely has something for you.